I am Brandy Agerbeck of LooseTooth.com, and I am here in the studio on Tuesday for Studio Tuesday. And you can see I've got my very good friends, the index cards, hanging out behind me. I wanted to give you an update on my health and kind of where right now we're right between 2019 and 2020, and I want to give you an update about where I was and where my health has gone in a very positive direction by the end of this year. So, I should have looked up exactly when I posted about my depression. I think it was roughly about a year ago. And those of you who reached out, thank you. I got nothing but kindness and support and solidarity when I posted about my depression last winter. And I think it was bad for longer than I really understood, but it got so bad, I finally got treatment late last winter. And the other factors have definitely helped in my health, and I'll tell you more about that. But when you look at the depression, there was a couple things happening that I think got in my way in a very human way. One was that I was perceiving the depression as a symptom of something else versus the thing in itself that I needed help with. I've since, almost 15 years, I have juggled, struggled, dealt with chronic pain and inflammation. And it's just something not right with kind of the equilibrium in my body for many reasons. And it's always it's always this very mysterious, jigsaw puzzle of one's health, trying to figure out what all the different factors are and how do you get yourself into a better place. So the depression was like this thing that was hanging out. And I always thought, well, that's probably, like that. Once I figure out what this other thing is, that'll clear up the depression. Instead of realizing the depression's the depression and I probably should do something about the depression. So it took really getting to some serious depths before I went, wait a second, I am depressed. And whether it is connected to something else or not, this needs treatment. I think, we all have ways we make meaning. I really appreciate that somebody who confided in me about their depression was describing how they saw it. They were trying to see their own depression as sort of a chapter, something they had been through, but they were done with. And so the next time they had about a depression and it lasted longer, it was like, wait a second, this isn't right. This is something that should be a discrete chunk of time in my life that I should get over or get past or get through or whatever. And I think there was another way of that person making meaning where they thought, well, I have a shape I'm putting, a shape I'm making this depression, I'm fitting this depression into a specific corner of my life or part of my lifespan, those kind of things. And fundamentally, it is what it is, no matter what we define it as. So again, really thankful for those of you who reached out, and especially those, I know I'm in a boat with a lot of folks. Extremely thankful that I was actually my main healthcare provider professional is a nurse practitioner in an integrative medicine practice. And what was extremely fortunate for me was she knew what my chemistry was. Like, she had the big picture of where a lot of the chemical stuff, the hormones, the everything, the blood levels, the blah, 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 was at in my body. So she could get me on the right depressant right off the bat. And, we did a little tweaking with the dosage, but boy howdy, a whole lot of folks I know struggle with even getting on the thing that works for them, and where the working for them surpasses the side effects. So thank goodness, I started the antidepressant I'm on mid-February, and we did have to bump it up. That's okay. But I've been feeling a huge amount of relief. So like I said, extremely thankful for that. Another thing that happened this year was I've been sugar-free, off of sugar for almost a year. Also, mid-February, my now husband and I decided we were going to go off sugar. And boy howdy, it makes a huge difference when you and your partner have that same goal. And I know the antidepressant has been a huge help, but holy moly, going off sugar, I am now that insufferable person talking about being off sugar. And it's not that I'm judging anyone else's choices. It's truly that I am somebody who, because of my chemistry, one of my factors in my chemistry is adrenal fatigue. So what my get up and go in the morning, which is, cortisol, is actually like out of whack in the fact that I don't wake up with it and it goes down. I start out with nada and it goes up. So that's always made me struggle with just getting through the day on a normal cycle than other people. Like, I'm the type of person, I learned, pretty early on that if I don't get myself to bed at 11, I'm up until 3 or 4. And the rest of the world doesn't work that way. So in my particular case, this is not to say this is, the cortisol thing, that's my particular picture. That may not be yours. Or one piece of the jigsaw puzzle for you could be different than for me. But I truly believed I had to eat sugar in the afternoon to get through the day. Because it took me so much to get out of bed and going. Unless I was on a gig, I would just, I'd get going and get, there's sort of enough extrinsic, extrinsic, is that a word too? Motivators, getting paid, serving my clients, all that good stuff. But generally, left to my own devices, it was always like really slow start, get a little bit of work done. And then when the afternoon hit, just go, and then, like I said, like try to ramp up until I was like the night owl ready to roll. But I needed to get to sleep. So I truly believed I had to have that sugar in the afternoon to be able to get through the day. And turns out I don't. So we went sugar-free in February. And I've done it before. I don't think I've done it more than a month in the past. And if you're thinking of doing it, and this is true of any kind of elimination, anything, especially when you're doing it because you want to see how your body responds. This is something I learned from going gluten-free a dozen years ago for health reasons, really real health reasons. If you're going to do an elimination diet, do it, be very strict about it, because being strict and consistent is going to give you the best possible signals of what's happening in your body. If you're kind of doing it, there's not enough difference. You're still going to be a little bit in the before state and a little bit in the after state, instead of like being super clear and then feeling like, oh, wait a second, this is what my body's like with this change, with this elimination of whatever. And when I've done it in the past, I have, it's horrible the first 10 to 14 days. Horrible. And the last time I had done it, not only did I just feel like crud, I was a freaking banshee. Not this particular time, but the previous time, like mood swings out, like, oh my goodness, like scary. Like, who the heck what is where? And, my particular case, I had reasons like figuring something was wrong with the candida in my system, which is normal, but if you have too much candida, it does all sorts of things. And, trying to research that and trying to figure out fact from fiction. Oh boy. Anyway. There were enough motivations, and very thankful that my then fiance, now husband, was game to do this with me. And for some reason, this particular round, this getting in this, the first 10 to 14 days, this particular time, wasn't that bad. And I think it just happened that because I was worried I was getting a little bit of a cold. So I always do that when I feel a cold coming on. I cut out sugar because I know it's not great for my immune system. So I was already in that space. So the segue was actually a lot easier. I think it's the book. Oh gosh, there's a book about creating habits, and the author starts out with talking about how when people get sick, like it's the 4-day rule, something like that. Forgive me for half referencing this, but she was saying that, I think, if I remember correctly, it is a female author. She was writing about how, when you're sick for 4 days, like what changes you feel in your body. And she's like, that's the window. Like, we know this from when you get sick and you stop eating the crud and then you start feeling better. And then, that segues into the same kind of idea. So I was already in a good space when we decided to go through that sugar-free door and keep going. And, incredible. Like, it's true for me, again, your chemistry, your body, your whatever is going to be different. For me, I have wiped out the inflammation. I woke up almost every day in pain and inflamed to the point I had to buy different sizes of shoes, so that, if I was having a bad inflammation day where my little feetsies look like, that sounded like feces, my little feetsies, they looked like sausages. They were just like, it was terrible, and they hurt, and my knees hurt, and blah blah blah. And I had to buy larger shoes just to be able to be okay on those days. And it wasn't every day, but it was, some level all the time. So gone. Gone. The only time I feel it now, certainly if I overexert, certainly if I drink, which I don't do that often, and I rarely have more than one drink, but if I have if I have alcohol the night before and I don't hydrate and I don't take ibuprofen before bed, then I may feel it in the morning. That's it. That is it. And yes, at first it's really hard. I was perpetually hungry. Generally, in my experience, if you get past 2 weeks, it gets a lot easier. But having done it for months now, my blood sugar and my appetite have completely recalibrated. Where it used to be that I had to eat with a certain frequency, and if I didn't, my blood sugar would totally crash. I don't have that, which is a huge relief. I don't feel that sense of desperation and timing around eating. I'm still eating. I thankfully don't feel the same level of hunger, so I'm not eating as much, but perfectly fine. Like I'm not starving myself in any way. It's just a matter of I'm not feeling that urgency. And again, the blood sugar is like very, very even. It's not ramping up from sugar and then crashing and then ramping up from sugar and then crashing. It's much more even keeled. And I've lost some weight. It's, so the part of what made me sit down and hit play or hit record on this video is that now that, when I'm getting out in the world, a lot of people are saying, you look great. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm going to tell you a story that sounds like I'm ungrateful, and I'm not. Back in 2013, I got some kind of mystery illness. And in that mystery illness, I lost a ton of weight very quickly. And what was happening was people would see me in person or see photos online and they'd say, you look great. But the problem was, yes, I was smaller than I had been, but I felt awful, 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 awful. And so there was this weird thing of like, okay, you say I look great, but I know that's not my reality in any shape or form, in a way, shape or form. But yet, because I'm this, that's supposed to be better, right? And of course, I figured out what that was, and it turned out it was parasites, very treatable, whole other story. And then I went like this again. And then I had more inflammation problems, and I went like this. And people don't say you look great when you're like this, and you're all like, puffed out, right? So now I'm very happy to say that due to getting on the antidepressants, due to figuring out the sugar thing, eliminating sugar, I have lost weight. I've lost it slow and steady this time. So when somebody says I look great, it feels very, very different. Also, I just want to tell, we'll say this backwards and forwards. Weight loss is absolutely not a motivator for me. For me, I knew that this and the inflammation was because the chemistry, the physical being was out of whack. So it wasn't about needing to go like this. It was needing to figure out what's going on so my body would reach its right equilibrium. I look at my dad's side of my family, I'm not going to be the tiny little bird my mom was, because that's not my genetic makeup. So good news is antidepressants, woohoo, pro, no sugar, super, super, super pro. And again, I know I get insufferable, thank you, about it, but I share it because it's possible. And I think there's a lot of folks who, they only see deprivation, they only see struggle, and, never change, at least try changing, experimenting with it. A change in my, early on it was going gluten-free, had very positive effects. And now, because I had that experience, I know it's possible to change other things. So that again, it's about possibility. It's not about judgment. You do what's right for you and your body. I do say, I'm just going to repeat, if you do some kind of elimination diet, do it very strictly, because that's going to give you the best information on what's happening with your body. If you don't feel changes, you may say, hey, that doesn't happen to be a factor for me. I certainly have plenty of friends who tried going gluten-free. They weren't feeling the changes that would signify that was their problem. Great, that's useful information. But if you have those good, those immediate positive changes, then you're onto something. My particular case with how I feel with gluten is so extreme. I don't cheat. There's people who choose to still eat gluten in small amounts or whatever, or there's something they just love too much, so they'll suffer the consequences. In my case, nothing is worth getting glutened. And now it's turned out the same way with sugar. Like, I will have a drink every so often. Again, I know how to, kind of counteract that. You know, my fella brought home Frango chocolates. Frango is a company, a certain type of, the classic is these mint chocolates that are, very specific to Marshall Fields in Chicago. And, he's sugar-free too. But he just could not avoid the siren song of Frango. And we tried, he opened this box of a different flavor we hadn't had. And I had one. And I'm like, okay. Now, yes, when you adjust sugar, when you try sugar again, when you ingest sugar again, it's going to be so much more sugary than sugar has ever tasted. In my case, it's not appealing. Just taste-wise now, being recalibrated. But also knowing the consequences of what happens when I eat sugar, it's so not worth it. Like, I'm thrilled I'm not waking up in pain every day. I'm sorry. That is enough motivator for me, personally. So I wanted to kind of give this update about the health. Very, very positive improvements over the year with the depression. Certainly very, 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 very positive results with going sugar-free. I'm going to keep going. No doubt. And certainly brain fog. I knew I had brain fog. I had it with the fatigue in 2013. It's come and gone. I certainly had it alongside the depression. And now that I finally can get some focus back, that's why I've got my friends, the index cards behind me. It's extreme. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say about it. It's such a relief to get my brain back and not be able to find the words, make the connections, any of that stuff. And I do think that both the depression and the brain fog was probably going on a lot longer than I thought. And now the consequence is looking around and going, holy moly, things have been so disorganized. And, just realizing, like, why do I have 5 different files for that particular thing on my computer? Like I do a lot of creating new files to, like, brainstorm new ideas. And I'm like, if all those were in one place. So that's the kind of work I'm doing now, is like getting a handle on what I want to create, what I want to put out in the world, getting that focus back. And the biggest thing right now is there's such a sense of relief, but I also know I don't want to push myself too hard, because boy howdy, I'm real good at that. And looking at all this and going, okay, how doable is this? And why am I doing it? What are the results? All that kind of stuff. So very excited for new focus. And there was something else I was going to say, and I'm not remembering it, and that's okay. That's actually, I think, a really positive result from all of this is, when I can't think of something, I'm not freaking out about it. Like, it's fine. I'm human, you're human. Sometimes you forget something, and, like, I knew there was something else I wanted to say here, and it's not coming to me. So, let's see if I can get it back. I do, yeah, this is it. It's one of those things where I can feel like I have lost time, and I know I struggled. And I'm going to fully admit, I am freaking proud of what I was able to create while I was still going through that stuff. Now I'm very excited to be in a better place and be able to, make more work, build on my body of work, create new resources for folks, build my business. I'm very thankful for all those things, but I'm also celebrating that I was able to put one foot in front of the other during that time. And if you're somebody who is depressed and is not doing that, I have no judgment. I just want to recognize that, that even though things were, and some of you may be going, I didn't even know you were going through any of this. And, I'm sure maybe a lot of people, when I did that video roughly a year ago, you're like, what? Because I'm pretty good at like when I can be in public mode, being in public mode, and then spending a whole lot of time in private mode that nobody sees. So, yeah. So I do give myself props for that. I do want to say change is possible. I know there's folks who feel like it's impossible. I'm married to somebody who hates change. Bless him. That is one of the big differences between us. Change is possible if you do want to make a change. If you want to make an elimination diet kind of change, again, really clear boundaries. If you're suffering, please, I know you're going to be making meaning of it. You're trying to figure out how it fits in your life. Take care of yourself. Get treatment. Don't suffer. And I think that's a big thing is like when you're depressed, when you have brain fog, when you're in pain, all those things make it hard to think clearly. I know those are reasons I did not get treatment sooner than I could have. I got treatment when I got treatment. Human. Right here. Right there. So that's an update. Again, thank you if you see me in person and you say I look great. I do appreciate that. I do especially appreciate that this round of that I am in a very different place. And I also want to establish that you're going to look at videos that I've created, and some of them I'm like this, and some of them I'm like this, and some of them kind of like this, right? So I know my weight fluctuates in these videos, and you know what? That's just the deal. I have had a couple conversations with folks where they're like, well, are you going to re-record those previous things? And I'm like, nope, that's where I was at the time. And I think I'm human, and to see, let's not even get into the whole, body image. Blah. Yeah, I've been bigger. I've been smaller. I am thankful I am smaller only in that I am healthier. My body is at a better sense of equilibrium. And you know what? That I don't know how long that's going to last for. Knock wood. Let's hope I'm in a good space and I continue to be so. I don't know. But I'm very excited about 2020. I'm very excited for taking care of myself, making some changes, that I have a beautiful, wonderful, wonderful partner who is alongside me, and really excited about this new year and, all my friends, the index cards. So, more about that and other bits and pieces, but I just want to give you the health update because happily going into the new year in a better place. And like I said, take care of you. We can do such a great job of trying to make sense of something, and sometimes health-wise, physically, mentally, it doesn't make sense. We don't have the clarity. We don't have the whole picture. We never will because there's too much complexity, right? So do the best you can. Reach out, get help. There are resources out there. I know here in America with health insurance, that is such a huge mess. And if you're not insured and you can't get the same resources, I feel you. Do the best you can. Take care of you. I'm rooting for you. Whoever's watching, bless you. Thank you for the time. I really appreciate your time and attention. And I look forward to more visual thinking resources, less personal, less health related. But I thought that was an important update to share with you, especially if you're like, why does she look like this? And why does she look like this? And why does she look like this? And why does she look like this? Because I'm human and I've got health stuff. But I'm in a good place. I hope you are too. If you're not, take care of you. Again, thank you so much for watching.